All right, so we have a video here today, which is, well, it's actually kind of good for once. Not like in a positive way, but in a really bullshit sort of way. But this here is a Barney Frank and Tony Perkins. Actually, it kind of felt like a setup to me, this video on MSNBC with Chris Matthews. So let me just restart it here. Hopefully I won't get an advertisement. Now I am at Mediate.
We begin with the president, same-sex marriage. U.S. Congressman Barney Frank is a Democrat from Massachusetts, and Tony Perkins is president of the Family Research Council. Tony, thank you for coming on. As always, you've been on many times before. Let me read you something about this, or something you said recently. You were asked about this. What would you say if one of your kids said that he was gay, and you said, I doubt that would happen with my children, as we are teaching them the right ways that they are to interact as human beings.
I'm trying to figure out, there's two things there. Number one, what the hell does that mean? You're teaching them how to interact as human beings. That doesn't even make sense to me. It doesn't apply to the issue at hand. Secondly, when someone thinks they're gay, a lot of times they think they're gay at a very young age. 4, 5 years old. Do they really think it was taught before that age? You cannot teach someone to be gay. And even if you think if you think homosexual acts are a sin, I don't care. That's not the issue here. What we're talking about are facts and truth and reality. Someone like Perkins does not care what the facts are. He cares only with how he interprets Scripture. And that is what then leads him and his thoughts on this issue. As a result, much of what he says is based on myth, lies, and almost a sort of folklore. You cannot teach someone to be gay any more than you can teach a gay person to be straight. Now let's continue on.
Well, what do you mean by that? If your kid's gay, he's gay, right? What would you have to do with whether he's gay or not?
Well, when you look at the social science research, there is...
I don't even know what that is. Social science research. See, this is another thing. I don't like where dumb people, ignorant people, pretend to be smart. And I think what offends me even more is the idea that these people think they're somehow representing God. They somehow think they're representing what's good for the family. That's, I think, and meanwhile, they're saying that you can be somehow, they're suggesting. Really, I think a lot of it's ignorance. They don't even understand what they're saying and how stupid it sounds. That they're suggesting that it's possible to teach or motivate or cultivate or recruit someone to be gay. You can't. It's stupid. It's asinine.
There is not conclusive evidence that this is genetic or biological.
Okay, well, gay people kill themselves because they don't want to be gay. Some gay people will literally cut their penises off, which I don't know why. You think you'd want to keep it. But anyways, they'll literally cut it off because they don't want to be gay. So they'll commit suicide, of course. They'll go years struggling with it. So we don't need to hear from this moron, and Tony Perkins, to tell us some stuff from some made-up study that he's citing. That again, I'm sure the study that he's citing or whatever is from a group or people who believe Scripture says homosexuality is a sin. So then they're trying to prove that as opposed to trying to find the truth. It's all based on lies and ignorance, fear, hatred of anything different, hatred and fear of anything that scares them. And one of the things I always say to people like that, and this is why I always do the videos against T-Mott, he follows some of the same stupid, ignorant nonsense when it comes to this issue, because I firmly believe it. I don't have a problem necessarily with someone who's a Christian who simply says that I think it's wrong to engage in homosexual sex. I don't really argue with people who talk about that. I would almost prefer them to say that I think it's wrong for someone to engage in homosexual acts. But homosexuality itself is not the issue. Because what happens there is, to me, we're getting closer to truth, at least in terms of they believe in their opinion, which is obviously something we can verify because it is their opinion. And it is in some variants in Scripture that almost any and all sexual acts could be considered a form of sin, especially if they happen outside of marriage. But then Christ also says that if you sin in your mind, basically, then you've already sinned. Now that really pisses people off. So I guess what I'm getting at is people like Perkins, they would strengthen not only their message, but it would allow them to almost sort of welcome gay people into the fold if they could just learn to separate the sexuality from the acts. So that when someone says they're gay, that does not mean that they have had or they will have gay sex in any way, shape, or form. In any other way than it would mean that someone said, I'm not gay, doesn't mean that they've had sex. Why must they always make that stupid, asinine assumption that someone says they're gay, well, then they must be having gay sex? Because again, it always stems from ignorance, stupidity, fear, and it's really a form of hatred. With the way the Bible is interpreted on these issues, it creates a situation to where it's difficult for people to feel like they can actually investigate it. So instead, they have a tendency to push it away. And when they push it away, they don't learn anything about it. They don't try to understand what's going on, why people become this way. And if they do try to understand it, a lot of times they try to understand it in a perverted way. They come at it in terms of, what can I find that is wrong with people? What can I find that is wrong with them that makes this in a negative connotation so that it backs up what I think Scripture is trying to say? So it's propaganda in a sense. And again, when I talk about this stuff, it's not even about me. I'm actually trying to help them. I mean, here he is, the Family, quote, Research Council. Well, what better way can you help families than to teach them to make a distinction between someone simply being born as a homosexual and someone actually having homosexual acts? It actually brings people together. It would bring this douchebag together with other people and allow us to have a dialogue. I don't particularly see any need to debate whether this guy thinks a homosexual act is a sin. That's his opinion. He's probably a heterosexual, so to him it seems disgusting, so I don't give a shit what he believes. That's his personal opinion. But when people like him come out, and of course, what do they want to do? They want to legislate the gay away. They want to legislate against homosexuality. They want to destroy homosexuals. Why? Because of their ignorance and misunderstanding of what we're dealing with, what it is, the percentage of the population we're dealing with. Maybe 3% might be gay, basically, and then how many of that 3% are actually having sex? I actually think it's very little, because it's very difficult for gay people to meet other people. At least in the middle of the country and around the world, it's even probably more difficult. You have certain places, San Francisco, New York, big cities, to where, yeah, there's probably a big gay lifestyle and there's more people hooking up. But outside of that, it's actually the opposite. So there's just a lot of bullshit on this issue. I'm not really playing the video much further because it gets a little too political for me. In that Barney Frank, for some reason, in a political hackish sort of way, he ends up bringing up Dick Cheney's daughter. And again, the whole thing kind of felt like a setup to me. And I don't support Tony Perkins. I mean, I don't agree with him. I think he's wrong. I think he's immoral and asinine. But I still felt like it was a setup.
It is a complex mix of environmental factors. And when you can control many of those environmental factors, you can teach your kids certain ways, you can protect them from certain experiences and certain things.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, there was no experience for me that flipped the switch. I didn't wear any dresses. I forget their little their bullshit stuff they make up. I just feel bad for them, quite frankly, because of the world they live in. I mean, they just make up stuff. They have no idea what they're talking about. It's kind of like when they go, well, you need to pray to change. And then you ask them, where in the Bible does it say that a homosexual needs to pray to change their orientation? It doesn't say that. So it's like they just literally make up shit on the spot. And it's so offensive as someone who's went through this process of trying to figure it out and thinking, well, it's wrong, but then why am I this way? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. And then to have assholes like this just sit there and throw bullshit at you and think that if you don't buy their bullshit that you already have been through 1,000 times over in your head, that you're somehow going to hell because you don't buy their uneducated, ignorant bullshit. It's so offensive. And then they use it to justify controlling the definition of a word. I don't even know what it is we're arguing about. How do you force people to not call their relationship a marriage? It's so freaking stupid. I mean, think about how dumb that is. If someone wants to get married to a cat and they want to call it a marriage, I don't care.
Things that could happen to them that could lead them down a certain path.
So parents decide by the way they
Decide.
raise kids.
It is a major factor. What the evidence suggests, it's environment that drives a lot of this. Not a choice. I didn't say choice, said environment.
That clashes with a lot of thinking. Congressman Frank, what do you make of that this statement by Mr. Perkins?
Let me come to Dick Cheney's defense here, Chris. According to Mr. Perkins, it's Dick and Lynn Cheney's fault that their daughter is a lesbian. First of all, I don't think there's anything the matter with it. But secondly, the notion that Dick and Lynn Cheney parented in an inferior way to Mr. Perkins is just one more absurdity. No, I don't think the Cheneys failures in some way to teach their daughter how to interact properly meant to being a lesbian. I know of no such evidence that says that the parents have an effect one way or the other. I don't know anybody.
I'm trying to get into this bag of Reese's. Oh my god, I can't get into it, man. Okay, now I'm sinning because I'm not taking care of my temple. Open. Ah. The hell, did they put in that super glue just to see what would happen to his fatties if we couldn't get into it? Alright, let me play this again.
For whom their sexual orientation wasn't involuntary, whether people are straight or gay, but you know, there are a lot of very conservative people who've had gay and lesbian children, and for Mr. Perkins to be blaming the parents, the Cheneys, for example, for having a lesbian daughter, is just one more absurdity.
But, Chris, I wish we had instant replay. I never blamed anyone or accused anyone.
But you said it was the way you parent that determines the orientation of the child.
I said it is the environmental factors.
Let's pause for a second here. I do gotta say, I gotta blame my mom for something. I did watch the Smurfs as a kid, so that could be an issue.
And as a parent, I can control a lot of those environmental factors. Now, Barney's the one who said it was a problem. I never accused him.
No, let's get back to the way most people.
Excuse me, Chris. He's just backing up what he said. He said he taught his children how to interact properly. He's the one who said it was improper. He backs away from what he said. He's on TV now. He wants to look a little more civil.
No, let's replay. Okay, luckily
said properly interact.
Okay, luckily we have tape here like in a sports show, and we're going to go back now and show what you said. The question was, what would you do if one of your children came to you and said they were gay? Here's what you said. It's on tape. Let's watch and listen.
I doubt that would happen with my children as we are teaching them.
You know, this is what I mean by being a setup. They just happen to have this queued up for their argument. Now, I don't like that. I don't like people being dishonest. And I know these guys are easy to embarrass. I mean, I know it's fodder, but... Alright, so there we are. Long story short, if this guy wants to improve his argument, all he's got to do is one thing. Separate homosexuality from homosexual acts. You know, there are probably millions of homosexuals or hundreds of thousands in the clergy who aren't having sex. And so, I mean, that's all that really matters is actual acts of sin. And so when someone says they're gay, that doesn't mean they're having sex, because obviously kids are gay. And many gay people simply don't have sex. So, you know, a lot of it's just you know, ignorance and nonsense. So I got to go finish my little Reese's Minis here that I finally got open. So this fatty actually got into it, so it's going to get it. Wait, now the rest of this video, I'm going to put a link to below because actually the rest of the video is actually kind of interesting. Because then they start getting into the politics of it. And Perkins says something. Let me see if I can find it.
For you, Barney, but you're familiar with a lot of things you don't attest to. Let me ask you this. I am struck, as a straight guy, with these wonderful relationships that have come out of the closet, you could argue. People that have been together for 20, 30, 40 years. Women, they come out, they seem like the most familiar people in the world. Regular, they come out and they've been in love together, lived together, shared everything together for 20 years, 30 years. You can call that sin if you want, fine. That's a statement you can make. Anybody can make a statement. But the question, what do we do when they ask society for recognition? All they want is the love of society and the acceptance of their relationship after all these. One woman in her 60s said, all we want before we die is for society to recognize our love. How can a...
No, it's not society's job. Society's job is not there to give you recognition for shit.
Christian deny that and say that's a religious belief? I'm asking you.
Well, why is that
wrong for them to ask for that? Is it wrong for them to ask for it?
Why has society recognized marriage? What has been the purpose of marriage?
Well, there are many purposes.
And they are?
It's social organization. It's the way we humans have tended over the years to organize it. One of the marriages now may be gay marriage and maybe different kinds of marriage.
It has been the place where children are created and raised in the next generation. And what we're talking about here is we make policy based upon the rule, not the exception. You can pick any anecdotal situation, one relationship, this relationship. That's not how we make policy. We make policy based on what's best for society as a whole. Right?
We make policy on what's best for society as a whole. You see what's happening there, and this kind of goes into Ron Paul's argument, that when you go down this encroachment of big government, you get that tug of war between the majority versus the minority. And when you get into a true democracy, they both want to use it to force their agenda or their political beliefs. So as a result, that's why my political belief is we need to stop trying to even have government define marriage. So people will stop using it as a weapon. And then I can eat my Reese's Minis without having to turn on the TV and hear someone say, well, homosexuality is evil, it's a sin, and I don't think they should get married. And I'm sitting there going, oh. Which I wouldn't care if we didn't have our current situation with the way marriage is used as some sort of weapon, or it's used as a way to attack and anger and pit us against each other and divide us. But of course, that's inevitably what happens when you go down the big government path. We start using big government as a tool to force our opinion, our faith, our ideals, and then it becomes tyrannical. So that's pretty much it. I'll put a linkage below to this debate because it does apparently go on a little further, although I've already stopped watching it. I may continue watching it. I don't know. But I got to eat these, so they're getting kind of soft. I don't want them to melt. Oh, boy. I think they're about to expire, too, so I better hurry up. See ya.